Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality and the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. I'm your host, Lynn Wyeth, creator of namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and the soul's purpose from a person's name. Now, our topic today is state of consciousness and how it is expressed. Do we embody all of the qualities of divine source? What is our role as creators? Can consciousness not be expressed? In other words, can you hold it back and somehow not express it? How do we establish ideas and ourself into the collective consciousness? From a spiritual point of view, what is occurring in the world today? How would we interpret headlines from a spiritual point of view without getting pulled into politics? And our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. Now, Susan Rowlen is a native Chicagoan, raised on Chicago's northwest side as a child. Susan did not have a conventional childhood. From the age of 6, Spirit singled her out and set in motion her journey to provide healing, clarity, and guidance. Blessed with the gifts of seeing the past, present, and future, Susan has been in constant contact with spirits, voices, and visions in order to help others make sense of their lives. Now, in her early life, Susan chose to use her unique gifts selectively to help those close to her, as well as local officials and businesses in need of direction. However, she soon became aware that she possessed rare and valuable gifts which should be used for the greater good. Not only has she used her unique abilities to provide spiritual guidance and healing to people of every age and every walk of life throughout the world, but on a personal level, her gifts also enable her to defeat her own daughter's autism. Now, as a professional psychic medium, Susan uses her abilities to help clients gain deep insights into their life journey and gain spiritual growth, shining light on relationships, love, career, business, and family. She is one of my very favorite guests. I love having Susan on with us, and I'm going to tell you, you all want a session with Susan, and go ahead and book now because maybe you'll get in the next couple of months. Her list and her waiting list is always long, and I always like to warn everybody of that because don't ever think you're going to call and get in a fast manner. So think ahead, call and get your slot now for later, for when you're going to need it. Susan, welcome to Luminescence. So glad to have you back.
Oh, my God. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I just love you, and thank you for having me. I always get excited being on your show. We always talk about great topics, and I love it.
Well, I just think with so much stuff that can seem bad or evil or negative or whatever you want to call it that's happening in the world right now that's very challenging in our war between light and dark or in our conflict. I don't even know if you want to call it a war. I just think there's got to be something positive. And the people that are going to make it through with more peace in their hearts are those that are raising their consciousness.
Very true. We're being tested right now. I mean, honestly, we really are. And I think we're being tested with our own intuition. So many people come to me and they say, Susan, I really don't think I should do this or get this or do that. And I say, stop listening to what others are saying because you have to really think about what is going to be right for you. And you are getting the message, but you are turning around and ignoring it. And that's where we're being tested. So I do think it's about a level of faith in us. It's very important to understand that and to stick with that.
It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast that a friend had sent me a couple of days ago, but I was listening to it this morning. And she is very research-oriented, the lady I was listening to, and she said that one thing we could all do that would help ourselves tremendously, according to the latest Harvard science, whatever, that came out from Harvard University, is to high-five ourselves in the morning in the mirror.
That's a great thing. I mean, yeah, I like that because, we are doing a good job. Most people never think they're doing enough or a good enough job. But the fact of the matter is that you get up in the morning and you have the strength to keep carrying on, even if it's things that you don't like to do, whether a job or relationship. But the important thing is that it's not going to dishearten you and it's not going to weaken you. This is very important. So every day when you get up and you're able to face it again, I love the high five idea because, yes, this is very important.
Well,
it is.
They did this experiment also in the schools that I thought was fascinating. And they said, what kind of support can a teacher give a child to give them the best chance of succeeding? So if you go by and say, you're really smart, keep working, it doesn't help the child because then they think, oh my God, if I can't do it and I'm smart, there's something wrong with me. And then they did another group and they said they would come by and say, wow, I can see you're really working hard and you have perseverance, and literally naming the qualities that they're seeing. That helped the children some. But the most successful group was the group where the teacher just literally high-fived every student and said their name as they came into the classroom. And when they were doing a good job, she would walk by and go, give me 5. Isn't that interesting?
That's nice. I like that. When I used to work with a lot of children because of their sensitivities and their intuition, and I had all ages at once when we used to do these groups, and I used to sit on the floor with them in a circle, and I used to say, what's the highs and the lows of your day? So what was the good part of your day, and what was the bad part of your day? Now, we would go, and it was interesting, and the kids would be so cute. They'd be as young as 5 to about, I'm going to say, 5th grade. And they would tell me, this happened today, but this didn't happen, or this kid made fun of me today. And it was very interesting. And then I noticed how the other children that were older said, I remember when this happened to me in 1st grade, and this is what I did. So when you do the highs and the lows, what was good about your day? And every time we did it, it was interesting because then I would get from them, here's the real high part of my day. And you know what, Miss Susan? I said, what? There was no low part of my day. And I said, good for you. Okay, so that's really interesting. But I always did that, when we had dinner with my husband and my daughter, and we would talk about the good thing that happened today and the bad thing. And if it was a bad thing, what could we do to improve it? And there was different personalities around the table that could help us.
That's interesting. I always did that with my kids right before they go to bed. That was part of our bedtime ritual. What do we want to repeat? Because it was really wonderful. And what are we going to change next time?
Right.
And I never looked at it as good or bad. It was just like, what do we want to change?
Yeah, highs and lows, and that's kind of how I did it, but it does work, but it works also for adults. It's not just for kids.
I was just going to say, I think anymore, all of us adults need it too. Okay, so our topic today is a state of consciousness and how it's expressed. Do we, each one of us, embody all of the qualities of the divine source?
Well, the state of consciousness basically is to become aware of one's own or another's needs or, attitudes. So being the state of consciousness is really being aware of what we're displaying, all the alertness to a particular situation, being aware of that. That is something that is very, very important. As far as the divine, we'll get into that a little later on the next topic that you've got. But this is just being aware, whether it's spiritual, whether it's something just in the now that we're living as humans, but just being aware, because the state of consciousness, when we are aware, we go to the next level. The first level is just to be aware of things. The second level is, do we want to dip in further, or is a particular subject something that doesn't work for us? So when you are alert of your state of consciousness, it's also teaching you to what's working for you and what you want more of and what you want less of.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I can tell you a whole lot of what I'd like less of, like less broken bones, less healing time, less.
But, really, consciousness is even how other people make us feel. Think about that. or certain topics that people preach, and you're not in alignment with that. And I always say, I agree to disagree. But if somebody is practicing a different way in how they live, and it's completely something that's just so out of range that you don't really want to be around this person because it's so negative or so the opposite, that's what I'm saying. So when you are aware of your state of consciousness, that's when you can start doing some real positive changes and enforcement to what you want more of or less of.
Yeah. And I think, too, as we are more aware of what makes us happy, it's easier for us to go in that direction. And I'm concerned sometimes with some of the people I see around in my neighborhood that are now existing instead of living.
Well, that's where it comes with your attitude, your beliefs, also your sensitivities. You know, there are some things that really make me cry, and it makes my soul cry. I watched something the other day on something, and I said to my husband, shut it off, I can't watch it. And it was something about animals, and there was a cruelty about a subject on a specific animal. I couldn't do it. And immediately I said, please shut this off. And that was it. My husband shut it off because we both did not know what was coming. You know, it was a documentary. And I said, just shut it off, please. I knew instantly how this was going to affect my state of consciousness. So I removed it.
Okay,
so I think that's what I want to say to people. You have to be aware of what makes you tick, what makes you sad, what makes you exhilarated. You need to pay attention. So when you are paying more attention and you know that this is working for you or it's not working for you, you will actually have a better quality of life.
Yeah, well, and right now I want to suggest that we all turn off the news as much as possible because...
Absolutely. Hands
you know,
down.
we do just fine if we're not hearing all that negative bombardment of brainwashing is what I call it anymore.
It's completely one-sided. It's one-sided. And, you know, when I was a child, I'm sure you can relate to me on this. When the news was advertised, okay, it was the news. There was no opinion. They just said the facts. That no longer is in existence. And this is where I have a problem. I think all newscasters should just report the news. I don't want to hear your 2 cents. I don't want to see you shaking your head. Just report, but it needs to be factual. Everything is censored, and it is not factual. And that's where I have a problem with this. So, no, I don't. I probably don't believe any of it. And pick a subject, I don't believe any of it because it's the story that they want to present. It's not the facts.
About 5 years ago, J.J. Dewey, author of the Immortal series, had advertised, and he said, whatever they're saying, think what's the opposite of this? You're closer to the truth.
Well, you know, it's true because my husband was a Navy man, and he was in the Iran back in the 70s under President Carter, and he was one of the crew of 13 that rescued the American hostages from the American embassy. Now, the way that they reported that whole story, he said to me, I will never forget it. They never reported it accurately. And he said, so you believe this much was a fraction of an inch that he was holding with his fingers to what the media is really saying, because it's not true. They are not giving you the whole story.
Well, see, I found out when I was a high school administrator, and we were the first in the state of Texas to have dual high school college programs, but we were the first for 5 different programs like that, or high school college credit classes. And we introduced 5 programs. 4 went statewide, 2 went national. And they interviewed me 5 times, and on the 5th time I said, I've got my recorder here. If you misquote me, imply something that's not true, like you have on the previous 4, if you embellish something, if you're not reporting accurately, I will sue. They never wanted to interview me again.
Good. I'm proud that you had the guts to say that. But see, this is what's happening. There's too many followers in the world, okay? Stand up and do the right thing. I'm finding a handful of people that are willing to say the right thing. And this is what I'm seeing. And yes, is there safety compromised if they do the right thing? I'm starting to see that more and more, but you can't give in. You have to do the right thing. And you have to be open to the right thing.
You know, If you don't acknowledge or you don't give energy to what you perceive to be not the right thing, does it stop existing in your world? Can you create your own world the way you want it by what you're recognizing as real?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, I do. But we have to have the power to stick to it. I mean, I live my life, not what's reported on the news, by what I feel. And it's never let me down. And, you know, psychically, the truth has been presented to me on so many avenues, not just for me, but so many other people's lives. But I was never afraid to see it in the truth that I needed to see it. See, that's just it. People pick and choose what they want. And if it's something that they just can't deal with, they can't. They walk away from it. Well, guess what? You're an adult. You have to see it for what it is. Yeah. But I noticed that people just say, no, I can't do this. No, I didn't sign up for this. It's kind of like a marriage. You know, everybody thinks that marriage is going to be like a honeymoon. Well, guess what? It's not. That doesn't mean your marriage is bad. You have to put the work in. So anything that is meaningful in your life has to be worked at in a positive way. It always has to be coming with love. It's got to come from love and hard work in a positive aspect.
Well, I always think as long as people honor their agreements, life it becomes a whole lot easier. And it's when we want to exchange an agreement or stop an agreement or that agreement doesn't work for you anymore, that instead of just changing it or ignoring it, we've got to talk to the person that the agreement is with and say, this is no longer working for me. What can we do about it?
But that's just it, Sharon. Communication is not high on people's list. They don't want to communicate. Because if you communicate, what's the next step? You have to do the work. It's almost like a person who never admits that they're wrong. It's telling me a bigger story. That's a person that will never want to do the work. Because if you're wrong, and many times I've been wrong about things and I've apologized because I have no problem saying I'm sorry. But guess what? Then I have to be more made aware not to do it again. I have to put that work into fixing it. When I see somebody that is never wrong and passes it out, it's always somebody else's problem or what they did wrong, that tells me this person just simply does not want to do the work. This is a person that you will never get through. Don't waste your time with.
Interesting. And with that thought, we will take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how do we embody the qualities of the divine. Stay tuned.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
When you need to know, meet Susan Rowlen. She is a gifted psychic medium, intuitive, and heart-centered healer who has given countless psychic and medium readings to clients all over the globe. Clients describe Susan as being warm-hearted, highly accurate, intuitive, inspiring, non-judgmental, and the real deal when delivering her readings to clients. As a professional psychic medium, Susan uses her abilities to help clients gain deep insights into their life journey and gain spiritual growth, shining light on relationships, love, career, business, and family. A gifted spiritual healer, she is ready and uniquely qualified to help you transform your life. You may schedule an appointment with Susan via her website, susanrowlen.com.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. I'm Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. So, Susan, we're coming back to the qualities of divine source. Mm-hmm. Do we encompass all of those, or are all of those available to us encompass? What do you think about that?
I like the question because I think divine law truly is made up by God and how you see God. You know, everybody's got their own translation to how they visualize God in their mind, in their soul, which can, follow spirituality or basically choose to follow the law that humans have made. So that's basically, it's either or. You can choose to follow the spirituality path that gets you through all the hard knocks, or you can just, follow the law and the way people look at things on a logical basis. So the choice pretty much is up to you.
So if we look at things on a logical basis, couldn't that also be on a spiritual basis? Couldn't they go hand in hand?
Yes and no, but what I've gathered is so many people that think so logical, they have trouble with the spiritual sense. In some ways they're okay with it, but in others it's too deep for them.
Interesting.
When I see a person, well, here's the thing. I hate saying this, but when I see a person who's very black and white and who has that tunnel vision, they're the ones that have trouble because they're the ones that need the proof. They need the facts. They're analytical. They're very scientific. And, the spiritual side is all based on belief and knowing. Even if you've never witnessed certain things, you just know it to be true. You see where I'm coming from?
Yes, and I'm also thinking you can have both. Okay, Susan, this is my reasoning why. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I started meditating when I was 18. Okay? But by the time I was 13, I was reading the Bible every night. We were having spiritual discussions around the kitchen table every day after school when Mom would feed us a snack. And so that whole side was getting developed, and yet I went into math and logic, and I read research for fun, and I think, okay, there's their logical deductive, and then here's the spiritual side, and I think they marry each other as long as we can see tones of gray. I think the problem is when we only see black and white.
You can be aware of it, but I don't think it comes full circle to you are maturely understanding the spiritual side of it. Seriously. Because I see so many grown adults and they go away from the spiritual. They really do. If they've had bad breaks in their life, they stop believing and having faith in God. They have numerous reasons not to be spiritual. And it isn't about that. Okay, so when things don't go away, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I can look at a child and they're more of an older soul than a human being who's 60 years old on earth because of the way that they look at that. I think there comes a point, there's different times in someone's life when you can have both, but you have to still go through your bumps to maybe gravitate to spirit even more. It's either one or the other. Things that have gone wrong, it gives you an excuse to go away from God, but things that have gone wrong, for some people, it gives them a place to even gravitate more towards God.
See, and when things go wrong, I think for those people that don't have a relationship for God, I do not know how they make it through.
Oh, I know a lot of those people, and this is why I answered it that way, because I have it first experience with people. And, I'm not here to convert anybody, and I even make that clear in my sessions. If you don't believe, that's fine. You're entitled to that. I will respect it. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I actually think, how sad for you. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not saying it, but I do. When I see somebody that just doesn't have that love for spirituality, I feel that you are really closing off your life to what is coming after. And that is such a sad thing. But then when I'm doing readings and the loved ones come through, I can always tell who are the atheists in life, because they want to make sure that their loved ones know, hey, there is God. And that's when they say, well, Susan, my brother never believed. And I said, and that's why he's saying it, because now he knows.
He knows. And I remember 2 years after my dad died, when I was communicating with him through a medium, and he said, you're going to think I've gone loco, but I finally made my peace with God.
Exactly. That's it, right there. So, I do believe it comes in different times of your life for someone who is just very black and white. A lot of doctors, I have a lot of doctors that come see me, a lot of surgeons, and their whole life has always been scientific. Do they believe in God? They're not really sure. Okay? Some just say flat out no, but then I've had other doctors that say, I'm really not sure. But then something happens with their patients that they cannot explain, not medically, not verbally, not emotionally. They just know what happened and they can't explain it. And that's how it starts reeling them in. And they come and see someone like me and they say, okay, this is totally unexplainable. What's going on?
Well, and it's interesting that you would give that example at this time, because my dad was a physician.
Well, there you go. So that's what I'm saying. Physicians are wonderful. My grandfather was a physician, and I have such a love for medicine and the body. I do. I really do. I like how certain things will heal the body. So I do. But unfortunately, med school teaches you to either medicate it or surgically remove it. A handful of doctors really believe in the holistic organic approach. And I think they have, if I'm not mistaken, I could be off, so don't quote me, but I think they only have about 3 weeks in med school for wellness that they touch upon. So, they're programmed.
Well, my dad said you got a 2-hour lecture on nutrition. That was it.
Well, there you go. So there. See, it just kind of. So when you ask about the divine law, it's basically what you are going to choose to let in your life, and where you are going to gravitate to. I mean, I'm a very logical person too, but I'm much more spiritual. There is a time for logic, and there is a time for belief and faith. And I think you can have both, but you have to understand where both is coming from. And I think people have trouble with that. I do. Mm-hmm. I do.
Because everything spiritually cannot always be understood in our 3D world. But,
yes.
We hear all this about ascension and about a raising of consciousness, and that's occurring right now, and that we're moving into the 5th dimension. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Is that what you're seeing also?
Very much so. I do. I think the bottom line is, with all the changes that are coming, I think the ones that are meant to be here will survive. It's going to be a very easy answer for me. And the ones that pass are the ones that are meant to go. And I'm not saying it in a mean way. I always feel bad when people lose their loved ones. But I truly believe, and I said this before, unless it's suicide, and that's a whole different thing that I'm not talking about today, but when you go, however it is you go, other than suicide, I truly believe you were meant to go. I do.
Well, and we always hear such wonderful things about the great beyond that I look at it and I think, who would not want to go? And why do people even want to come here in the first place?
Well, my mother had a saying, when I was a little girl, she used to say, one glimpse of heaven and knowing you can't stay there is the biggest punishment of all. Now, I can attest to that because I've had 2 near-death experiences. And the first one, I was screaming, begging, crying to stay. I did not want to come back. And I have to tell you, after that ordeal, I went into a depression. It was a depression that was not a common depression that most people go through. It was a depression of knowing and having a taste of something that you just wanted so much more. And it was very, very hard for me to reacclimate to being a human being with human feelings here, with the love and the hate and the jealousy and the ego and the pain, physically, mentally, emotionally. It was very hard to have to readjust to that. So it was tough. It was tough, but I do have things to look forward to. So am I afraid of passing? No. Am I ready to go? No. But am I afraid? The answer is most definitely not.
Well, but what I was thinking was, though, that for those people that are choosing to go, and I believe it is an agreement between you and the individual and our Creator, when the appropriate time is, it's an agreement.
Yeah.
And I think they're actually getting rewarded. They get to go home faster.
They are, because I always say it's a home going. Okay, this is not our home. Being with God in the afterlife is home, because our soul has been home many times. This is not the first rodeo about going back. Okay? Everybody's got different times of how many lifetimes they've had so far. But trust me, our soul is very familiar in going home.
Yeah. So with so many projected passings that everybody keeps seeing that will be coming and occurring, it's not to feel badly, even though we miss them, but to celebrate that they get to go home. It's their time.
Well, I'm happy for them that everything's perfect for them. I'm happy that they can work on their soul growth in their own timeline amongst beauty. And, there is nobody up there that is going to be cynical or harmful to our spirits, to our souls. It's quite beautiful. It's quite lovely. And what I love is there's no pressure. We learn in our own time that we're comfortable with.
Okay, so I want to know, how do we best raise our consciousness while we're still here?
Well, for one thing, don't be a follower. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of people follow. I'm seeing it, and I don't like what I'm seeing. And I constantly am reminding people, okay, to do what feels right for you. I cannot stress this enough. That is raising your consciousness. Also, there are so many people that are so sensitive. They're empaths. Pay attention to what you're surrounding yourself with. It's funny, because I'm getting a lot more people, more now than ever. Do you know what they're surrounding themselves with, the two biggest things?
What?
Animals and nature. That seems to be ever so healing to people that are so spiritually exhausted.
That's interesting, because a lot of my friends are now taking on pets or more pets if they've already had pets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they are God's human angels on earth. Somebody said to me, I just love dogs, and I just wish that dogs would live so much longer. I said, well, they don't need to, don't you see? They don't, because they've got the magic. They know. So they don't, the reason we have to sometimes live longer is because it takes us all that much to get where they've got it. They're teaching us.
And how fabulous. And I happen to love trees. So I live in the middle of a forest, but that's me. And what I found is really interesting is, for 2 weeks, we have fox and deer and squirrels and hawks and all kinds of birds, and hedgehogs and groundhogs and you name it. I mean, you can watch the animals all the time. For 2 weeks, it was like all the deer disappeared. And then yesterday, I saw 2 brand new fawns. And I thought, they're back.
That's nice.
They're back. And of course, they make havoc in the area right around my house, because they all dig their own cubby holes and they all have their own beds that are dug out. So talking about a smooth yard doesn't exist. But it's between trees. So I just look at it and go, oh, well, that's their home.
Well, we feed off of the tree's vibrations. And you're very smart to say that, Sharon, because you're completely 1,000% correct. This is why children, that are young and they play outside and they're running around the trees or climbing the trees, or, their feet are in the soil, they're happy because they are benefiting from the earth's vibrations that's going into their bodies. Then they get older and they go around the computers and they barely go outside, and they're just depressed. So, it's very important. My husband makes me get out to take a walk almost every day. Sometimes I'm not done till about 10 o'clock at night, and he'll just say, "Come on," and he'll pull my hand and he'll say, "Let's go. We're going for a walk." And I need to get out of my office because I've been in that office since 8 in the morning. So, but you know what? I feel better. I can't explain it. So for everybody that's listening, computers, I have very mixed reservations on the computer technology world. For me, if I never had a computer or phone again, I would not miss it. I'm truly honest with you. I would not. But pay attention to the vibrations that technology give versus Earth's natural vibrations. There is a huge difference.
Well, does water do the same thing or a similar thing as trees? I know a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, I need to be around water."
Water and nature. I always say you are closest to spirit when you're amongst water and nature. It is so important. Try to pray when you're in the tub or you're taking your shower. Now, they always hear us no matter what we're doing, but it's magical. Try that when you're praying that you're not going to have a piece of technology in the same room. Very, very important, because it's also getting in the way. It's a distraction, a vibration, and that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to do that and see how I feel differently. Is it harder for people to connect right now, or is it easier for people to connect because the earth, in my last meditation, I was informed that the earth had already transformed into the new dimension and we humans were just late in catching up.
True. You're very spot on that. We are already in the new dimension. And I think that there are so many people who are, here's what I'm getting. A lot of people say, "Susan, I do try to meditate, but it's not working." I said, "Because you're trying too hard." Everything seems to be a science with people. There's a schedule, there's a science, there's a way to do things. And I say, you are doing it so wrong. It has to come naturally. Meditation should never be planned. Okay? When I hear people going, "Okay, I'm setting, Sunday 1 to 2 and I'm meditating," it's so wrong. You are not doing yourself a service at all. With meditation will come and it will help you rise to your highest frequency when you're not trying. But the secret is when you're doing something you love. So
an active meditation.
Active meditation is much better. And when you're not trying, you could be in the car and just start, your mind's, traveling. But you're not actually planning on meditating. That's actually, you'll get some of the best messages when you didn't try. And you're not even realizing that is a form of meditation.
I think that's the coolest time is when you're in the car and you're driving long distance and the radio is off.
Yeah. Again, what did I say? So no technology. Okay. Do something. For me, I love my walks. I do. I like to trim things. Yes, we have a landscaper, but trust me, I love to get my cutters, and I like to be in the yard, and I like to do what I want to do, and it makes me feel good. I feel very active with God. I do. I'll trim the trees. I'll trim the bushes. I'll trim, and I just feel good when I'm doing it. Also, we have inherited babysitting our daughter's dog. I cannot tell you the world of good that this creature has done for me.
Now that's cool.
Yeah.
And we're at break time again.
Go ahead.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about how do we establish ourselves in the collective consciousness. Stay tuned.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. You are with Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. And her website is her name. So it's Susan spelt the normal way, and her last name is Rowlen. Again, the last name is like you're rowing the boat, ROW, and then LEN. So SusanRowlen.com. Okay, Susan, so how are we fitting into the collective consciousness? Does everything we think go there willy-nilly? Is it just a mess? Is it organized? Talk to us about that.
It's basically what's right and wrong in society. How I'm kind of looking at it is we get to choose what's right and wrong, beliefs that maybe a group may have. Where does that take us? Collective consciousness has a life of its own, really. But it's what we choose to follow. Beliefs, traditions that can be passed on, individuals internalizing beliefs and values. The reality is what we want to reaffirm and reproduce, okay? But this seems to be a choice to me. It's basically what direction do you want to go and follow that's right for you?
So it comes back down to freedom.
It is. We have the freedom. Everything, believe it or not, is free will. It is. Everything is free will. Pick a topic. It's free will. And it's how we are going and what we're going to focus based on the free will to the outcome that's going to come. It's based on your choices.
I once read that the biggest boo-boo or sin or whatever you want to call it, the biggest no-no is to take away somebody's free will from them.
Well, yeah, taking away their freedom. Yeah, I think it is sad. Nobody has a right to tell you what to do. Well, let's use the vaccine thing right now. This is why so many people, you've got some people that are so much for it. And believe me, I'm not taking sides here, but I'm going to use this as an example. And the people that are saying, wait a minute, you're taking my right to choose that what should be injected into my body. Perfect example right there. So what is society doing? It's taking away people's rights. They can't, maybe go shopping one day, or they can't go into a certain place. They can't get a job or hold their job. So when you ask that question, here's a perfect example of what's going on. Taking somebody's right to choose.
Well, and to me that's kind of scary, and yet there's got to be a line in there somewhere. And the reason I
Yeah,
say that is because parents choose a tremendous amount for their children, and
absolutely.
and then there has to be a stoppage point where you say,
Hmm.
okay, child, it's now your turn to choose. I'll suggest things, I'll give you my opinion, but it's
Hmm.
your choice.
Well, I get a lot of children that know as young as 8 years old if they feel they're gay, or 12 years old if they feel that they're gay. I get a lot of teenage children that are transgendering. And I have the parents that they don't know what to do. And I try to sit the child with the parent. And what I try to do is explain to the child, you have to give your mother or your father or both your parents some slack. They know you as a son that they gave birth to, and now you're transitioning to a female. Give them a chance to mourn over the loss that they no longer will have a son as a male identity. And they always sit back and they think about it. I said, you need to be able to do that for your parents. And then I look at the parents, I say, if this is what they want to do, and they feel that this is really who they are, as much as whatever your thoughts are, your opinions, you have to be supportive to their life. So, yeah, it's very hard. Believe me when I tell you, it's very hard. But the free will, I don't think, should ever be compromised if it's going in the right place. Now, I'm not talking about somebody who has mental illness and cannot decide for themselves. That's a whole different story. So for people that are listening, don't confuse that with that. That's a whole different thing. But traditional things that people want to do with their lives, they should have the choice to choose.
Okay, so I've got another question for you, Susan.
Yeah.
In our headlines today, we get these headlines coming at us from, when you're going to the grocery store and you just look at the newspaper stands, or you hear them on the radio, or you get them in your emails, and you get all these headlines. How do we interpret headlines from a spiritual point of view?
Well, it's funny because that's a great question, actually. When I see the same headline, but words have changed, but it's the same subject over and over, I'm starting to think that they're trying to brainwash us in a certain way. What I always say is, you've got to do your homework. Don't leave what other people are telling you and to be in belief. It's okay. Let's go back to, God forbid now, you were diagnosed with something, and you're not feeling really great, or you want to make sure. And what do? You go get a second opinion, maybe a third opinion. I think you should be able to do that. Now, if that helps you make the final choice to what you're supposed to do, to get that surgery, not get that surgery, I think this is truly what needs to be done. But I see so many people, they're becoming lazy. Oh, well, they said it in the news. Well, the government said this, or, my mom told me this. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you take the time and research and see what you're taking away from it? And here's the thing that I want to say. You're robbing yourself intuitively, because if you took the time to really pay attention, see intuitively what messages you're getting. So I think it's lack of laziness.
Is there more static right now in the air or whatever, where it is more difficult or challenging for people to find clarity of their own thoughts or to receive information?
Yes, because they're being bottled down by so many people that are telling them what to do. Or so-and-so did this, or so-and-so did that. Well, wait a minute. What does Sharon want to do? What's going to be right for Sharon?
I want to get up and run and be active again, but it appears that I am listening to my doctors, and that won't be happening for almost the remainder of this physical year.
Well, I think there's a reason for that, to be honest with you. I don't think you're supposed to be active at this time. So here's why this happened to you with your ankle. I'm going to be really honest with you. I think that universe stopped you down for a reason.
Well, I would say that obviously the universe didn't want me running around.
Nope.
And so we'll just see what happens during this 3 months that I am, housebound by choice or by doctor's orders or by sheer, it's easier to get around on the in the wheelchair type thing in the house, and going down or upstairs is just it's such a challenge. It's not worth it. So, Susan, tell us what you have coming up next as we're winding down, and again, how to reach you.
Well, I'm going to be at the Phoenix Convention Center in Phoenix, Arizona, the Women's Expo Center this Saturday and Sunday. So anybody who's in Phoenix and wants to come down, I would love to meet you. I think that would be good. It's going to be on Saturday, October 9th and Sunday, October 10th from about 10 to 5. I'm doing that. I also do a lot of workshops and webinars, so look out on my Instagram and my Facebook page, and you can reach me at SusanRowlen.com. It's SusanRowlen, and we could touch upon everything from lost loves, passed on loves, to your career, how you're coping, your children, relationships, you name it, if you want to move, all these lovely things.
Well, and I was going to say, and you give very fast answers and very direct answers that don't give a lot of wiggle room. You know, they're very clear. So I
try to be.
That.
Thank you. I do. I try to be, because I just think, you know what, people don't want to hear you saying something that's taking you 15 minutes. Just tell them, you know, and if they need examples, absolutely. But I don't like wasting people's time. I want to make the most of your time. That's important to me.
Well, and what I always appreciate is that you're very clear. There's not any room for misconception, or I think she really meant this by that.
Right.
You know,
yes.
It's very clear.
And I do like questions. So if you have questions, the more questions, the better. Let's be clear in what you want me to focus on. That's something that I do, you know, encourage. So yes.
Well, Susan, thank you again. Our time is up. It's always such a pleasure to have you on the show with me.
I love being here. Thank you for having me, as always. And thank you for the inspirational, you know, there's so much that you give and the inspirational topics you touch upon. So I thank you, because I know a lot of listeners, they adore you, but they're walking away with so much more. So I thank you.
Well, this is what I call my tithe to the universe. Okay, so next week we have Susan Klopstein back on. We're going to be talking about how the universe is set up. What are Rakiyas, realms of existence? What are Kumaras? What are the terms that some people may use that all of us, or a lot of us, don't understand? So that's what's going to be on next week. And like always, we close our show with Shine, the lovely song by Dee L'Amour. And you can hear more of her music at her website, which is DLEMOR. So this is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off and thanking you again for taking your time to listen.
So long ago, gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. parts of her. The light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew